Here we are entering the final year of the revolutionary campaign in Nations in Arms. What's happened so far? Look, throughout the whole campaign, it's been kind of swinging back and forth. I think the coalition has largely been doing pretty well. At this point, the French are in a position where they drove the Spanish out. They're starting to conquer some Italian territory, but there's still a chunk of France that is under Austrian control now. And the armies are so weak. France has to attack Flanders in order to have any chance of even preventing a defeat. They have to throw everyone out of France and take Flanders. That's sort of their top goal. Their secondary goal would be to capture Italy, Geneva, Switzerland, and whatever else they need to take for their victory conditions. That looks out of reach. The Polish incursion here got defeated. It was, I don't know, probably a long shot at best, because the timing of forcing an Austrian surrender requires a certain timing check. Spain gets to make a check to see if they leave the war. I don't think that they'd be out of the game forever for the entire campaign. So I don't think they'd come in as they normally would when Britain comes in. And yeah, we got to do the economic phase and everything. All right. I'll be back up now and then. Okay, well, let's see if the events phase changes anything in what seems like the inevitable, because I think the French are going to be able to probably take Flanders. We're not positive. Maybe drive the English out. No new cards go in. All the cards that are to be added are added for other very small scenarios that happen in the revolutionary period. They don't reach this time. And so we just get 2 cards each. Let's see what the French get. Blockade running. Okay. We're going to have an Irish revolt, which is going to be kind of weird because the English aren't in the war at the time that this is going to be played. And let's see if the coalition gets anything. Corsairs, that's not going to help. I think that's worse than usual. So again, this is a card that the coalition gets. They will never play this. It'll always be out of France's hands, no matter how long the game goes. France has one similar to this, the defection card. It's just been neutralized. Right? There's no hand size limit, as far as I know, which is a little weird. And then they get the Toulon card, which may not be able to be played. But I think it is. This is not anything special. This is just makes sieges easier. And that just adds to our pile of stuff that we largely are not going to use. As we have this humongous hand of cards with no limitation. So the Irish card will be played. I'll set up the Irish forces, I guess. No particular instructions on how to use this, but there's something in the non-2-player rules that allows for wars that are outside of the coalition versus empire wars, where one side picks, basically gets to be part of the coalition for movement or part of the empire for movement, just as a means of making the chits work and whatever. So that's what we'll do here. England will be able to, because it now is facing a threat, and it's going to be in the war very shortly anyway. But the English will be able to operate in the coalition turn because they've got a problem, and the Irish, of course, would work as the empire. All right, time to start doing the budgets. I'll be back with reports on this. It should happen during the diplomacy phase. I'm doing it now because it's faster. Spain rolled a 6. They're out of the war and out of the game at this point. So they will simply withdraw. Austria having her army here in France, it's kind of an ugly situation. I probably should have fallen back into home territory rather than to Reims, because it means I only got 2 steps on each of these, which kind of is an incentive to build another army, just so I can have a large set of forces somewhere. I may want another army anyway to try to deal with the Italian threat. But I'm more worried about if I can hold on to any of the French territory, if I can keep the French from conquering Flanders, then I win, you know? So this is the bigger focus, but another army is definitely a possibility. The problem with building forces here is that they're going to be spread all over the place, and I'm going to have to gather them into my army. Basically, the spring turn is going to be a waste unless I force march. I guess I could throw a lot of detachments in, but that doesn't really make a lot of sense either. It became apparent the 8 pounds for the army was too much, so I built Wurmster a stack here. He's not needed over here anymore. I only have 3 steps there. Built replacement points coming through Flanders, the miners, got the Venetians here. This isn't enough to stop Napoleon, but then again, he doesn't have reinforcements. He's a pretty small force, so maybe it is. This stuff, I can funnel it into the army, but the Austrian army is not going to, I assume, be able to handle the French army. Used up all my leaders, actually, covering a lot of these, you know, one-step units, whatever, just so that they have some movement. That makes the next country France on the economic chart. I don't want to do France right now, so I'm going to put the dice here. I've been using dice for movement points to indicate how far, you know, how many movement points something's expended in a turn, and that works fine. But if you absolutely wanted to track, if you're not using the alliance credits optional, or if you're playing a multiplayer game of it, well, a full boat multiplayer game, you could simply use that track with like a control marker on it or something, I guess. It's about 11:30. Played a decent amount of Raid, but also napped a little bit because I can't get that much, I can't use all my energy in the game right now. But only kind of like half napping. Like, I may fall asleep a little bit, but I just got videos on and don't, you know. I also made a mock hollandaise sauce, which then I found out is actually a thing and isn't that far from what I tried to make. I don't know, I just didn't, it wasn't a matter of time. I didn't feel like making a mess and using an extra yolk and all that. It wasn't too bad. Not the same. Anyway, the reason I'm on video, other than to tell you those things, is I'm doing the French income now. Now, the French income is different. You know, we're facing differences from what we ever had before. So I've got the normal $79, but I got a couple of provinces I lost here. Lorraine and Champagne. Now, I gotta look. Neither of these have a star. So they're worth 2 pounds each. So I lose 4 pounds off the 79 that I had. And now I go over whatever territories they've absorbed and add the money for them from here, just like I did before. The French managed to maintain their cav on the board. They didn't lose any cav. The Poles lost some, but we'll get to them in a moment. The Poles have the capability, like they have 6 steps of units they can build, even at this small size, and $18 to build them with. That's enough to build 6 steps of infantry, but their army is not constructed that way. So since they have artillery in their infantry corps and they have cav unit, a very good cav unit, you want to build their good stuff, and that's going to cost a little bit more money. And I ended up using excess French money for the Poles, which gets to them without any problem. Again, feels fine here because the French Navy has no competition or anything, but it would feel awfully weird for French resources to get to Poland at this point in time. Obviously, you know, even navally, it's not possible. The Poles have no ports. You know, this isn't modern Poland. This is the rump just before the final dissolution. I wasn't able to build all my infantry or militia or anything, and obviously not my fortresses, because of manpower constraints. So what I did was I threw some additional forces into here to reinforce Napoleon to face what the Austrians are putting up in Tyrol. And I put everything else I've got into the Army of the North. I renamed the Army of Spain as Italy because it's probably going to head that way. Or, I don't know, be closer. It might become the Army of Germany if I move north more, whatever. But yeah, my primary goal right now I can't conquer Flanders until next winter, the last turn of the game. But as soon as I lay siege to Antwerp, or I think occupy Brussels, you know, during a conquer phase or something, I don't know. It's going to bring, because it says lay siege to Brussels or Antwerp. Actually, it might be, whoa, is it Amsterdam? Amsterdam wouldn't make sense. I'd have to declare war on England for that. It is so many little rules that are a pain in the ass to keep track of for the scenario, but okay, Antwerp is on this one, but up here it's Antwerp or Brussels, attacks or besieges. I guess attacking Brussels would mean if there's an enemy force there and I attack them inside Brussels. That'll make sense. I don't know how you attack Antwerp without sieging it, but anyway. Anyhow, so while that's an important goal, destroying Charles's army is the more important thing. And I think I'll be able to do it, but that's a double army. So, yeah. For the Army of Italy down here, much smaller, I switched leadership and really kind of switched the whole leadership, because I want the important stuff to be over here. So Hosh is down here with his commanders. I recreated the whole Polish army, basically. There's enough manpower to do it, and I threw some extra money in. I even threw money in to build an extra fleet and a dummy fleet, because I got no toys to build, so it was cheap. I don't need to build another army. I don't have enough troops for the armies I got. You know, sure, this one's kind of out of position, but it's not like I don't want to split that army into two forces. And if I defeat the Austrian army, a leader with six steps is able to do about as much as an army can. I don't have anything like engineers or supply wagons that I can build, although there are more in here. They all have numbers on them, which means they come in on specific years, so they're not really available. I got a new fleet, like that's the one I built because it's the best, but just, you know, I haven't built all my fleets yet. That leaves me $12 left. That's enough to garrison a bunch of stuff. As far as I can tell, I don't need CUs to garrison the stuff later in the turn. This is something I could look up in the Banania rules or whatever, see what was eventually determined with that, but I'm not sure how or where to find it because I haven't read a physical copy of the rules. So unless I can guess the right search term, it's pretty useless to me to have a PDF. I can't read off the screen comfortably, and I'm also not going to reread the whole rules, you know. So whatever, I'll make up my own rules as I go. But yeah, other than that, you know, England's going to be a pain in the ass when they come in. That Anglo-Dutch army is not small. It's another full-size army. The Austrians have 2 small armies here and an additional force at Antwerp. So, yeah. That'll bring me to building the Brits. Do I want to do that yet? I don't know. I think I'll take a break between. Weird because the economic phases, like for an individual country, aren't all that hard. And I used to do like a couple of nations in EU for the economic phase. I would do an economic phase, which is about the same weight for empires in arms in one sitting or whatever. I've just gotten a lot less willing to be up playing at any given time. I was down for about 10-15 minutes and I'm back up. Why? I'm in a sort of a liminal state right now where it's really, really hard to sort of drown myself in the things that I've been drowning myself in recently. I don't know why. They're just not appealing anymore, whatever. And this is just sort of nervous energy. So let's get to the Brits. I'm sure they don't have much they can do. They got shit tons of money here. An extra 70 under there, you know, and they're able to just pile it up as much as they like. That's pretty ridiculous. They have absolutely nothing they can build. I got some Swedes and stuff I can put on the map, and if I need any money for fleets, I've been allowing them to build their minor fleets. Although I'm not sure I'm allowed to. No matter respective status, no major power can give pounds to another major or minor power. The major powers can give it. The decision of the amount are chosen in the budget phase. Except for Britain, which has no limit, major powers can transfer a maximum of 6 pounds to each other major power. A maximum of 4 to... All major powers, no exception here, can transfer a maximum of 4 to each minor power. So there's the answer. Those neutral fleets can't be built by anyone. They have no purpose in the game. Unless they start the scenario there. I don't know. I mean, there are neutral fleets. Well, maybe they do. Maybe when a minor comes on the board, it's supposed to come with its entire force pool. Maybe there's a lot of things that aren't covered in the rules. And again, you know, what the hell. But England has a total of $269 and nothing they can build in their own force pool as far as I can tell. I'd probably argue that England wouldn't be collecting this much money without a war going on as well. I spent $20 on a Finnish fleet that I'm not allowed to build as far as I can tell, but whatever. It probably should be on the board whether I can or not. And that leaves them with 249. I don't want to deal with it. I'm just putting them at the max on the chart. But they have infinite money for whatever they might need this year, but there's really nothing they might need. Capture of fortresses, stuff like that. They can also give money to other players. And they actually have no limit to what they can give to mages. Again, for whatever that is fucking worth. But they're not in the war, so I'm not allowing them to fund Austria or whatever. Who definitely, well, Austria is all that's in the war. So, you know, yeah, whatever Austria could build, they would have if they were funded by the English. It's not clear that they can't give the money, you know. Like, they're played kind of by the same player, sort of, kind of, I don't know. The British player is the coalition player, according to the rules. This game would be a lot worse at this point for the French if the Austrians were able to build whatever they wanted in terms of troops, though. They actually were limited by their funds. I allowed something that wouldn't work, which is Austria to roll first for Denmark, France to roll second. They chose to spend $2 to increase their chance a little bit. They could have actually spent 4, but I didn't want to spend more than that, just because I think I'm going to want to rebuild fortresses, you know. And then allowing Britain to come in and spend from their infinite pile of money for a second roll for the coalition. Now, normally, the coalition as a whole, and it's not clear, like, do you get to pick one country or another, what's going on, gets to make 2 rolls. And I think it may be from Britain's point of view, but I don't know. Like, that doesn't seem right. It seems like you should be able to influence minors with your non-played allies that you control. In the multiplayer game, Austria would get to make its roll, and Britain would still get to make 2 rolls on Denmark. So, you know, kind of cutting, splitting the difference between the two somehow. Technically, I could have made both rolls with Britain with about the same effect. It's not like the Danish are going to really help the Austrians. They're really only valuable if and when Britain comes into the war. All right, I guess it's time to build the chit pool. I kind of don't want to start, but I also know that there's nothing else I want to do right now. Point of fact, the Irish can pretty much be ignored. They have no way to get out of Ireland, and Britain controlling Ireland's got nothing to do with the victory conditions here, so I could just ignore that whole situation. I feel like the Brits probably would want to do something about it. So again, I'm going to incorporate them in as part of the coalition. Oh, it's spring, not summer. Put the winter quarters in, shake this up a little better. I don't trust just a little shake. I have to shuffle too in order to make sure. And, well, let's see what our first pick is. It's a winter quarters. How about that? Failed to shake well. All right, there goes that. I usually shake better than this. Game could just be over. Not on this draw, but it's the neutral naval. Well, there are no neutrals now because I incorporated the British into the coalition. For the Irish, neutral land. I mean, Prussia and Russia and whatnot would be playing right now. Empire, naval, not really worried. Getting all the garbage out. Coalition land, we get to do this one because we were on a French before. Okay, well, it's a coalition land too. Honestly, we want to react with most of our coalition forces, I think. We may want to do this siege just to get the fortifications. But other than that, maybe move some detachments forward if I've got room for them anywhere. Won't work. Detachments can only move forward for free on the one card. Otherwise, they're moving as a force with a leader, in which case they get an activation marker. And may or may not pollute forces depending on how they're used. If they're reinforcing a particular core, they won't. Like if they're, I don't remember what it is. I'm going to say subsumed, but that's definitely not the word for it. I've got one here, but I've got a detachment there to already be eaten by that. So yeah, dunno. Did a couple of things. By the way, these chits piss me off. So much does. This side has one arrow on each side. I can face it one way for Empire, one way for Coalition. That works pretty well. This side has two arrows on one side, just one on the other. I think it's got to be a space issue. But I grab a chit and I see it's got one arrow and I put it on and it's the activation over side without realizing that. So what did I do? I succeeded in the Siege of Leopoldstadt and then ran back to Vienna because I gave up my core to reinforce that. I don't have money in Austria. These forces, Venetians, I moved forward. I'm keeping Wormster here because I want to be able to be flexible, although there was no declaration of war on Switzerland. Was there a declaration of war on anything? Shit, I don't know. I can take Romagna this turn. See, I gotta see what I need. I gotta see what I need as the French. Maybe put some markers. I'll be back in a moment. No declarations of war needed in Italy. I need to get Switzerland and Geneva at some point, but within this year. But the only two places I need are Lombardy and Romagna. Those two, I'm at war with both. Lombardy is a direct ally of Austria. Romagna is part of the papacy and is a direct ally of that. So no problem there. And then outside of that, I need Holland and Flanders. I haven't gained anything I need. And I've lost a lot that I need. Not that much, just up here. But I got to take care of the situation in France before I bring the Brits into the war. The big question. These guys could march up. They would pollute, because that's the Baden core, even though it's only one step. The detachments back here wouldn't pollute, but they're too far to force to extended march and get there. So no help there. These guys could make it in. Again, they would pollute, but there's some good stuff. And if I can hold Reims, it's game over. So I think I'm going to move forces forward to fill out my double army. I pulled everything forward, and that thing now has, it's been activated. It would have to force march to take a set to do something else, and that would cost attrition and whatnot. Gonna break here. Feel like I've done enough now. Mainly my battery's running low. Second winter quarters in play. That means turn could end at any point, and with some stuff that had to be discarded, we get the Empire land too. This is going to be big because the French absolutely need to get some stuff done this turn. They can't risk anything, so they can't do any delays. In particular, I need to fight this battle, which is going to be big. And we'll zoom in on it a little bit as we do with the major battles, because this one's as important as any. I don't think the French can win, but they might be able to avoid losing. Even though Flanders is absolutely vital to the French not losing, I still need to defeat the Austrian army. I can't let that sit around, so I have to meet it. And if I want to win, I absolutely have to beat it. And it's not entirely clear that I will lose. Also, taking Flanders brings the Brits in, which brings more problems into play. Okay, so the French moved up here. We're going into a lot of detail because this is so important. And we've got an Austrian interception attempt. That's important because it's a +1 to the combat die roll if I can intercept for them. So my natural, I have light cav. I have a cav leader. I don't have a lot of Austrian leaders, so I had to check. I think I only have one. No, I have one in each army. Okay. I was going to say, I think I only have one in the game left. So that's +2. Same initiative. And just one major power. Because there's only one major power in the game. So I need an 8 or better. and we get it easily. The way I deal with this is this force moves into here, leaves its control marker, and we'll take the French off the board and put the contact marker going into into the hex that we were entering. We spent 2 movement points, we're in that hex, now the major battle begins. As a note for the Brits, I could have demobilized some of their forces in England and rebuilt them in Scotland, because that is British national territory, so that would have been an option. I'm fine not taking it, I don't care. Again, the Irish don't matter. They're not going to get anywhere. They're not going to do anything for the ultimate victory. I can ignore Ireland and let it fall, and then go back and take it if needed. The only thing it affects is how many cards the Brits get on a turn. And again, I'm giving cards out as if it's a 2-player game, because it is. So I'm like doing some weird shit that isn't really supported in the rules, but feels like it should be, because otherwise, like major power diplomacy is the thing I'm thinking in particular. You should be able to associate, minor power diplomacy. You should be able to associate minors with countries that they more align with, but at the disadvantage of it not being Britain, your coalition lead. And in this particular scenario, with Britain not in the war, you really kind of don't want the minors associated with them at all. Until, like, they're not doing me any good. Card choices. First, I looked at them already, choosing my French. The most important one is Echelon, because it gives a +1 to the die roll. That helps me win the battle. That's the most important. Others, I could get a bonus on my morale check because I'm in my home country. Ambush doesn't have any possible effect, so I can throw that out. Panic gives a +1 to the enemy morale check. I kind of have to win the battle. So I'll play the panic one, but I don't consider it worth risking a good leader, but an okay leader is fine. I'm just not willing to risk the Keebler elves here. Those are going to be, I'm going to risk them as my secondary leader to get extra bonuses there. Now I'll take a look at what the Austrians choose. It really helps me here. I could get a +1 to my die roll if the opponent doesn't have light cav or cav leaders. I'm sure that they do. They had cav before. They haven't lost them. So I'm going to throw surprise away. The other 2 are applicable. Viva l'Empereur. -1 to the force morale check if it's commanded by a 3-star leader or sovereign leader. That'll be just my force. That's going to be my primary. My secondary is going to be this rear guard. The pursuit losses are lowered by 1 if the defeated force contains at least 1 cavalry step. This applies to either side, because it's not the force, or your force or anything like that. So this is kind of weird. Both sides get a rear guard bonus. That feels funky. Like, it doesn't feel like I'm choosing a tactic anymore, right? Feels like I'm somehow maybe limiting the intensity of the battle so that both sides have a chance to deploy a rear guard if they have it a little bit. Like I just find the wording on this, you know, when they see the defeated force, well, here I see the force. What's the difference in the wording here? You know, I don't know. But this appears to apply to both, and I'm just pretending that there is, you know, that little indication is enough, but I could apply the same logic to the other card. Again, this is not at all important. It's not important to me. Am I willing to lose a leader over it? Yeah, I think so. And we'll put him forward. Why am I willing to lose a leader? So, if I lose the battle, I would rather not take heavy pursuit losses. If I beat the French and they don't take as heavy a pursuit loss, that's kind of okay. And it's only 1 point. I've got a fair amount of cav here, at least 4, right? 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah. So I'll be doing 3 hits anyway. I'm willing to reduce the chances so that I have another battle, because as long as I hold this territory, as long as Flanders isn't conquered, whatever. Well, as long as I hold this territory, France isn't winning. As long as Flanders isn't conquered and I have an army that can kind of prevent that, then I'm gonna win, basically. Because France needs Flanders to win the game, and so I don't even have to worry about that side of it. But also, and I have, with Flanders not conquered, I have the one condition that prevents the French from even getting a tie out of it. So a big decisive battle is to my disadvantage. Let's put it, play it out full blown. How about that? Okay. So we're at +1 here. We need a 5. We don't get it. The rear guard doesn't happen anyway. I've marked that a leader has to be checked. I'm at +1 for the French as well. The French get the panic check, which, there's some pipe tobacco, not me writing on the card or anything. I was pretty sure I didn't write on any cards. What I didn't realize is I bought this game new. Because I had this game on my look out for it used thing, and I probably wouldn't have bought it new. But realizing the second printing and the changes to that helped convince me, hey, maybe the errata will be in it. Yeah, apparently not. Most of it isn't, at least. And on top of that, I had kind of stopped buying used games as much. That piece of shit may have been my last used game. I don't remember. But, man. And I bought that one by check, I think, because at that point, my PayPal account was like not working. All right. So let's calculate the modifiers. They're pretty easy, but again, I think this is so important. We got the tactics in place. That's a +1 for the French. Strength ratio. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16. Full French army, but the Austrians have 2 armies. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 15. There's only on one side. 16, 17, 18, 19. It's 1-to-1. Again, not absolutely sure. It doesn't tell you how to deal with the ratio. Normally you round in favor of the defender. This would be the defender. That would drop it to a 1-to-2. I don't think that's what you're supposed to do here. But it's not obvious from the rules. Again, and honestly, if like some on the, off the cuff response by the designer answering, online or something, I don't really take those as terribly valuable unless like thought is put into putting together an errata, which as far as I can tell doesn't even exist. It's not on BGG. I didn't go look over, like Concept World doesn't have this capacity as far as I know. So it would have to be on the game site, and I checked that. Nothing there. Or incorporated in the second printing rules like they promised, or kind of implied that they did. They said it incorporated errata. Well, ain't there. Or the one last place that I no longer check for whatever reason is the WebGrognard site, and it's been updated and everything. They tend to have compilations like that, but one of the issues with that is, and with BGG as well, is that sometimes it's just posted by someone who's compiled these answers and stuff, as opposed to someone who's definitely associated with the game. But yeah, you'd think before they reprinted it, they would have done something. I don't know. All right. So where are we? Yeah, odds. No one out of supply. Commanding leaders, they're both +2. So we put these up to +3 each. Sorry. Subordinate leader. Yeah, we're going to commit. French are committing a 2. We'll commit a second Austrian leader. We don't have to use a second one. We could use that same one and have them make two leader loss checks. But as long as I have 2 leaders, I'm not going to do that weirdness. Lead combat unit. All right, here the French are potent. They have a +2. And the Austrians will also, this battle is too important not to, put a +2 as well. Okay, artillery superiority. Don't know. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 9. But there's 2 armies here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So that's 1 point for the Austrians for the artillery. We got this. Yeah. Okay. Cav superiority. Don't know. I think we just have 2 steps. That means the Austrians have twice as much cav with their 4 steps. Part of the problem here is that I don't have a lot of toys with the French right now. So I've got like a cav in the... oh, fuck me. Again, Army of the North should be up here. Army of Italy should be down here. Can't remember. Son of a bitch. What do we have here? We have a cav and an infantry. To me, I think we could manage everything except these, which will not be up with the... Yeah. So these should be with the Army of Italy. Everything else, I think I could have done the way I have it. So I'm gonna swap these 2 over here and then swap the 2 armies. I mean, this is the leadership, etc. I wanted in the Army of the North. The point with all of this is, and I don't remember what I was fucking calculating anymore. I already got the cav superiority in there. Yeah, I don't know what I was looking for. I don't know. We got an interception bonus as well. That brings them up to +9. But this just shows when you make a component bad decision, like putting the Army of Italy way up here where it's closest to the north, it's a recurring problem for somebody with a brain like mine. Like, I just will never be able to cope with this. Will I be able to cope with the Austrian, the Bohemian, German? Yeah, kinda. It's more intuitive. But this is just bullshit. This is just bullshit. That's all I have to say. They should be ordered, and they're ordered not even alphabetically. Italy, Germany, like I thought these 2 are alphabetical. This is all alphabetical, but Italy is just stuck not even alphabetical. Like there's nothing to help make that understandable to me at all. Honestly, if I had known that my only engineers were in the Army of Italy, I might have disbanded them and spent $8. Like, I bought a Navy I didn't need. I bought a fucking decoy fleet that I definitely don't need. None of these things are gonna really help me, right? But, yeah. All right. So, I feel like I was calculating something that I didn't get, but I think I caught all the things. Which means +7 to +9. This is on the major battle chart. Let's roll it. Oh, this isn't good for the French. 11, which is going to be 4 hits, to 16, which is a 6 CL. French are in trouble. For the French, they had to take one of their hits on the good infantry unit here. They had to take a hit on a cav unit, and then the rest on the regular line infantry, which is all pretty good, and they paid, had to pay artillery for it and everything. Leader loss checks. I have to make one for the Keebler Elf, one for the guy who played my card, and then one other, which I'll make for one of those crappy leaders. All right, for the leader loss check. For the Austrians, I have to make one for each leader. Okay, nothing bad happens at all. Well, now the French have to decide where they're retreating. I fall back 2 hexes back to Lille. I am done with my activation. My army morale was 4, the Austrians was 3. So we flip over here. And commander's bonus was a +2. So that puts me up to a 6. But it drops back down to a 4 because of the 2 losses. I'm safe from demoralization, but my army's taken a hit, which is not at all good. And that means I'm in much, much worse shape. Yeah. And I'm done with my movement. The 2 movement points I spent don't matter anymore. And we go to see what I want to do with the rest of my stuff. Although I can still maybe tie, maybe. But I kind of needed a decisive victory over the Austrians there. Oh, speaking of which, there was a +1 to the morale here. Let me reshuffle this deck. Got to be shuffled for every major battle. It's a pain in the ass. And if you used it for every minor battle as well, it would be much more of a pain in the ass. Major battles are fairly rare. With shuffling, I shuffle this, I insert cards all over the place. Then I shuffle it a few times, 4 or 5 riffs, a couple of overhands, whatever. Put it aside, and then I do the same when I'm going to draw for the next battle, just because I don't trust I don't trust us 4 or 5 shuffles. And I don't know, I'm just kind of anal retentive about that. But this makes sure that I've got a pretty decent shuffle, even if I forget to do it later. I got to decide is what I want to do with Hosh's army here. I'll move it towards Italy in case I want to send it there. I can't take Lombardy without an army being there, but I can't win anymore as far as I'm concerned. So maybe prevent losing by trying to connect up, but it's a long distance. It's a hard call, man. I don't even... I feel like I need the reinforcements. Shouldn't have withdrawn to Lille, but I might as well have the benefit of the fortress, the supply line, all that shit. Might as well, I guess. Yeah, I think I gotta move up this way. Don't know what it costs to move into this. Kind of doesn't feel like mountain. I don't know. It's got to be mountain because this pass otherwise wouldn't matter. So let's move up here. I'm not gonna extend my movement, I think. I don't know, the Army of Italy is not that big. It's only 4 steps. But do I want to get closer? Sure. Let's extend our movement. Let's do a quick attrition check on that. What did I say? 4 steps. Puts me over on this column, which isn't bad. -3. -5 to my die roll. It's not going to do anything, I think. Ooh, well, that's a star. A 4 or more. Am I in a city or fortress? I didn't end in one. I don't know how much sense that makes, but I take a hit. Not good, not good. I'll take it off the good infantry. That kills an artillery for me, but I feel like cav is more important. A cav pursuit could still do me lots of good if I can arrange a victory. Probably want to start moving Napoleon back too, just because there's just no reason to fight over Italy yet, I think. I'm leaving Italy and I'm shifting my poles down. I feel like it's too much to try to push the poles this way or something to try to get reinforcements over there. I don't know. It just feels like it. I would have forced march to try to consolidate my troops. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I could have done it down at Orleans, maybe gotten these guys in. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, yeah. Maybe even Napoleon running in there. And just get a double army here to try to face the Austrians, try to prevent defeat, get my entire force together. But, although I drew an Empire land move, I had just had one, and we hit winter quarters. So the turn is over. Nothing exciting happens from that, but a lot of forces didn't move because too many winter quarters came up. Yep. The sun is coming up, the evil sun. I have to go shopping at some point soon. Probably this week, but it's supposed to cool off a little bit around Wednesday. Right now, it's hitting in the mid-90s, and I mean, I could go early in the morning, but then it means all kind of complicated stuff, although my sleep schedule would definitely support it. We're here in the summer, yeah, in more ways than one, and I've done the dip, nothing happened. Time to make the cup, no winter quarters this time. Coalition gets first go. Kind of interesting situation. The French just abandoned Milan instead of, spending a couple of points on it. I just view that I can't win, so screw it. I'm throwing everything in to try to avoid losing. Well, the Austrians would like to make me lose. And in order to do that, I think what's going to happen is we just got a coalition movement. Charles is going to go up and try to hit the French again before all the French forces can coordinate. Nina manages to intercept, giving him that +1 bonus now. Dubois, okay. Whatever, just curious. Another major battle coming. I think I'm going to play the big flank attack, +3 to the die roll, canceled by a refused flank. But the force has to be of enough size, we are, and the commanding leader must roll a 5 or a 6 on a d6, but modified by the combat value of a subordinate leader, which doesn't require me to commit a subordinate, but it means I have a 50-50 chance at a +3. That's sort of my best option. I should have artillery superiority with 2 armies versus 1, so this is useless. Viva l'Empereur, it's a morale check. And I've got a 3-star leader with Charles there, so yeah, I'll commit I don't know if I want to commit a +1 for this. I also don't know if I want to commit a cav. Oh, they're both cav leaders. I got other people too, though. Yeah, I might as well throw a +1 in. I got tons of them. I'll throw a +1 in just to give me a better chance of the bonus to the morale. And that's for me that I'd have that. Let's check the French then. 4 cards to choose from, which is good. Our primary is going to be this Fortified Farm, just a +1 to my die roll. And Patriotic Enthusiasm gives me a bonus to my morale check as well, because I'm there. Do I care about it? I mean, a 1-point leader is cheap for me. Let's get the right army. Keep wanting to do without. 2-point leader, too much to play for that. My other card's an Ambush, which would require terrain that I don't have for reducing the enemy's die roll, which is really kind of cool, because then you're reducing your losses. And then the Grand Charge, I don't have enough cav for that. So that's out of the question. Let's see if we get our second card. We don't. See if he gets his second card. Got a +1 in there. I get to keep mine. And then my main card requires a 5 or a 6, but I need to throw a subordinate in. I don't have my 2-point subordinate anymore, so I'll just use a 1. This does not cause a leader loss check. I get that big flank attack, so we're gonna be lighting up the French, I think. And so yeah, that flank attack made a big deal because we're at 11 to 8. That was the difference. Artillery, we were just short of 2 to 1. 8 and 7 is a big 15. And of course, this is going to get us there. So it's a 5 CL to a 7 CL. Handle the results. I got to remember to spend the 1 for fighting, in case I keep going. The French could have stayed up in Lille and not intercepted, knowing that they're at a disadvantage, although we saw the numbers would have come out even, you know, if the flank attack failed or whatever. But, so it was still a close battle until the randomness comes in, right? But that wouldn't be a good idea anyhow, I think. I think I'd rather take the chance of fighting that, because when you relieve a siege, when you try to, relieve a siege with another force, they can't coordinate in this game. Historically, it happened. So I don't know. I don't know why. I don't know how often it happened, but it did. This time we got the demoralization, which caused 2 more steps to go. Now I have 3 steps of cav. I hope I didn't fuck up last time and count this as 2. I think I may have. Let me give a step back. The extra step wouldn't have mattered at all. Pretty sure I counted 4. Oh no, there was no pursuit last time. Good enough, good enough. Okay. Yeah. I counted 4 for odds, but I had to take a cav loss. I took it on my regular cav, not really thinking too much about the pursuit. Would have wiped the French out entirely had I done so. Important factors, well, Colorado died, but Kleber here, the Keebler Elves, my best secondary leader, he used to be down with the Poles. I actually could have used the leader I have with the Poles there as a secondary. Would have been better, wiser probably, and have the flexibility of moving with a better ranked leader. Of course, Napoleon's my best secondary leader, because he can't lead armies right now. But yeah, lost one of my good leaders, and that's not good. Lost my army, that's really not good. Looking pretty bad for the French at this point, as this doesn't affect the French withdrawal. And now, if I attack into here, the French can run away because they're demoralized, but I might as well chase them away from Flanders. Siege of Lille was not successful. There's still value to gathering the two armies because this comes with 2 artillery built in. I think for siege value, see here it says per in supplied unit of engineers. Here it just says army marker and supply. I don't think it's per army marker and supply, so I only gave the Austrians a +1 on their siege. But now they can work towards gathering their own forces, building their armies back up to face whatever the army of Italy can manage. And all the Austrians moving up, including the forces from Innsbruck that were going for Italy. I sent the Venetians in to grab Milan and just secure it. Just making sure of things. I can't take Genoa or Piedmont back from the French, except by, this should just be there. It's both. Except by conquest. So, and actually I don't even need this because I have the markers for them. Although it does help me remember. But it's also kind of confusing because it's the same markers for both things for fortress. See, this is the thing. In EU, you have control markers, but they're only used for territories. You have fortress markers per nation that you can use to indicate that you conquered a fortress temporarily or whatever. So it's a slightly better design structure. Honestly, you know, there are issues with EU's graphics and stuff and with some of the pieces, but just nothing compared to what Compass generally puts out, just across the board. Compass. I've just soured on them so much. I thought they fixed their problems, at least everything except the graphics issues. I don't see a reason to do anything with him. I could run away. It would be kind of embarrassing to have Austria surrender, but it's not that big a deal. Actually, it would be. Maybe I should send this army this way instead. Maybe that makes sense. Send it there instead. Because I don't think I need it for the French. But the Poles, because if Austria surrenders, the Austrian armies come off. And that means France can concentrate on getting Flanders and not losing the war. The Austrians would give up whatever territory they gained, their little flagged areas. So yeah, that would be pretty bad. So I think preventing the Poles now become a real threat. That was a big chit. I don't feel like doing another one yet. Myself facing real economy of force type situations, right? I needed the 2 armies to here. I needed them as full up as possible to deal with the primary threat. But boy, I wish I had an army coming this way instead, maybe. I don't know. I'm sending a big enough force. It's as big as the Poles. All I have to do is hold something. Well, no, that's not true. I have to hold Vienna. Or both Prague and Budapest. But Prague isn't fortified, so that's tough. But there's also, they have to take this on the way. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's out of range of supplies. It's going to be hard to get supplies from the Poles. They don't have a wagon with them. Of course, they can be out of supply the turn they... No, they have to be in supply to conquer. I could leave a detachment behind as if it's a wagon. But I kind of have to defeat the Austrian army to be able to do that. On the other hand, this chain is all within range of each other, so that would be doable. And I think I'm doing the right thing by sending the army back that way. Russian got the next turn, obviously. I mean, there might be things in between. There was like the Empire got the next turn. Lying. And I slipped down out of wherever the hell I was, this swamp or whatever, gathered all the forces into an army group again, 2 armies together, Napoleon, etc. Napoleon's kind of interesting. So I already told you, he's got this side, which he isn't really, like, it isn't available unless there's a card, from what I understand, because when things are in bracket, they're event-based. But on this side, he's a 3-star general, but there are 2-star generals who can command armies. He can't be subordinated to those. Like, but he can't command the army either. Every other 3-star in the game can command an army. So it's like this weird sort of situation where, I don't know. It's an odd state. In addition, the Poles went down to take whatever the fuck this was, Leopoldstadt again. However, they failed in their siege check. The answer to why this guy couldn't be in charge is he's only 2-star. This guy was in charge of more than 4 steps, and now the whole thing's a big 6-step force. Trying to take it, and that'll put it on a coalition turn next, for real this time. Kind of low on tea. Just, I've amused myself with something else, so I was away for a while, and now I'm like, I want to play more, but I also really should get another cup brewing, and then I'll probably come back up. I don't feel capable of sleeping right now. Coalition gets a move. Now, this was their one move where normally detachments can move, but if the detachments have an active marker on them, you think they're under weird circumstances. Again, it's not entirely clear what happens, but I had 2 detachments that had moved already, had an activation. They were with a commander, so I just moved the commander again. Forced march, low chance of anything. Got the extra troops into my armies and moved another detachment, which doesn't have to worry about. So, see, if the detachments hadn't moved and didn't have an activation marker, they could move under their own command on the one chit. But I don't think I can move on another chit and move them again as detachments individually where they'd have no chance of attrition. This unit had no chance of attrition because it was just 1 strength point, but it couldn't get all the way. I'm not going to do anything with this, and I'm going to leave this alone too, although, you know, I mean, he's defending Vienna, right? That does some good for me. And this guy, I don't want to risk him. If the Poles come down, maybe get some attrition or something like that, whatever. Or maybe I cut their supply. Whatever happens, you know, whatever opportunities come of it. The French gathered here, I don't think that they're particularly excited about trying to engage the Austrian army again. So I don't see taking an attrition for a double army. Same thing here. I don't see taking attrition for my double army of Austrians. I think it just comes down to, you know, I've got until winter to take Flanders, and that's really the only condition I have left, is take Flanders, win the game. You know, don't lose the game. Can't win the game anymore, because all this isn't going to fall. Holland's not going to fall until the Brits are in. And it might actually be best to attack in the winter because the Brits don't come in until, I guess, the diplomacy phase. Again, I'm not positive how it's worded. It may be worded in a way that's not terribly... So here, Britain and her allies join immediately through diplomatic action, event, or if France attacks or besieges. Immediately sounds like they'd be in the war right away, which is kind of fucked up. If I didn't have the Irish situation, they might get an extra movement shit that way somehow. I don't know. You know, it's really unlikely, and they're still only allowed to activate twice anyway. They just might have another opportunity to get a movement under this weird circumstance. So yeah, as soon as I besiege Antwerp or fight a battle in Brussels, I will be in a position where the Brits are then in the war, and then the Anglo-Dutch army comes down, which kind of means I still have to beat that Austrian army. The summer turn, the chits aren't going to do anything too weird. We're just going to be alternating back and forth. We're not going to get a winter quarters or anything to end the turn early. So what did we start off with? We started off with a coalition. That means we're going to end with an empire land movement. I don't think either side wants to do anything at this point. They just have no real reason to. I mean, I would move this again, but it's double activated already. We're rolling into the autumn turn. I'm going to break again. Nothing really happened. I just pulled chits for no good reason. Could have called it on that turn. 2 more turns. And, you know, if I can't beat that Austrian army to the extent that, like, I can safely make it into Flanders, well, I'm not even going to be able to pull a draw with the French. About noon now, I'm still awake, which kind of bugs me, but I don't know what the hell I'm doing. Diplomacy phase. France got Denmark. Now, immediately as soon as the roll happened, it was a double sixes. That's not what they needed. I think they needed an 11, but I'm not sure. So they have a +1. Yeah, they have a +1 on Denmark, so they need an 11. I don't want to spend money anymore. Denmark is not all that valuable, but as soon as I made the roll, I knew, uh-oh, problems here, because I could remember there's some kind of thing about you can roll against somebody else's diplomacy when they just get them or whatever. And it's this here. Players must wait until the last roll of the dice to know the final statuses of the country. Okay? This is just sort of slipping around there, right? And then there was an example that talked about it. But, you know, the only rule that talks about this is under satellites, but maybe not part of it. Like, Allied has this large section. I feel like this section's satellites. No, sorry. Under Allied. Okay. Can produce its own troops. The minor country may achieve supplies during spring budget. Lastly, a minor may only leave the Allied status if conquered by another power all through a random event, which seems to indicate you wouldn't be re-rolling. Except this exception. The coalition may attempt a diplomatic action against a minor power allied to France if this power is part of the continental system and not a satellite state. Well, I don't think that's the case right now because the continental system's not established, and I don't know what conditions you wouldn't be part of it. Like, it's a Napoleonic decision to establish the continental system, but it's not a decision you make in the game, so I don't know. And then here, they give a -1 DRM to each French step present, presumably for this, and a -1 to diplomacy by other powers during the current diplomacy phase, which gets covered in the example, which seems to indicate that at the time of rolling, you know, on the turn that it joins, it can be converted, but it's got an additional penalty, is all I can kind of read towards it, but I don't understand why they're talking about this last roll of the die thing and everything, but these rules are just so bad in some places. This is one of the worst things, though, in them. Anyway, I'll tell you what. The Brits can't possibly succeed with that extra -1 on them, because it took all the money that it would take all the money they could add in to have an even shot at it. But again, Denmark's not that important. I've got now, this is another issue. There's nothing that tells you what's set up. I got a couple of fleets here. Can never build, I guess. I don't know. You would kind of presume Denmark would start with a fleet. The only thing that I've got to guess as to what their setup forces are is either everything, maybe, or what's listed here as what they can build in a turn. I went with the latter because I figure, look, very few armies are few countries, even small ones, are going to be fully militarized until they decide to enter the war. Of course, these militaries are pretty small, but it would have meant another step of a detachment and their fleet, depending on how I take it. The rules don't help you with this. Maybe the rewrite does. I'm sure the first rewrite does, but that's the one that people accused of having made up shit in it. You know. Now, I don't want to go into it. I had a viewer give me a more detailed understanding that he has of it than what I have of it on, I think, my prior video to this, but I'm not sure. But certainly one of my earlier ones, but I think it was maybe the last one that I did. But I mean, it's just so bad. It's just so bad. And then the other one, no idea. You know, I mean, no matter what you're doing, you'd have to make up from these rules something to cover this. And I made something up. Don't know if it's good or not. Another thing that I'm going to make up is that I can loan enough money to any country to build a fleet on a turn when it can build a fleet, which the way the rules are written, you can't do. But because of the way I have this set up, I figure you have to recommission the fleets and whatnot, because again, these nations aren't really ready to go to war at all times, right? So it's just hard. It's hard to tell. Anyway, but you're not allowed to loan. You're not allowed to loan enough money that any fleets could possibly be built, as per the rules as written. And there's no indication of when they get their fleets. So that will put us to preparing the cup. And, you know, again, just going through, having to look this shit up and re-litigate it in my head, it makes me want to just walk away again. But we'll set the cup back up. Winter's going back in, winter quarters. Only takes 2 of them in the autumn to end the turn, so somebody better get on the go. I mean, the French better. Austria's fine. We do have a couple of sieges left over from last turn. But we start off, coalition had to go first. They got a 2 chit. That means pretty much everything can move. Started off sieging Lille. Now, we took it. I'm like, okay, great, I took it. Now, if I want to keep it, I kind of have to spend a couple of detachments that I really didn't want to do. And then I consolidated with a corps that I had in Reims and ended up, you know, with my forces together. The other thing I did is I launched an attack here at, I don't remember what it's called, Leopoldstadt, against the Poles. They didn't intercept, and now we're going to have a field battle between those 2 forces. I don't know if that's wise or not, but I feel like if I don't contest them, I just kind of lose maybe, but that's not so certain because you can kind of like threaten forces and everything. And yeah, I don't know. It ended up with a +5 to the die roll. Austrians having more artillery helps, but the French were badly outrolled, so we get a 2 to a 3+L. Those are not demoralized. They lose their siege though. They had to retreat, but they lost both their leaders. And they would have been demoralized if if their force commander had died, but he was wounded instead, which isn't enough. This guy, who's good, died. And I think I was at 6 full movement points here. I could keep going. You know, no, extended movement doesn't let you keep going. I lied. I keep mistaking that. And, you know, it's just because it feels like a forced march more than anything else. Whereas the extra chit, like, it just feels like 2 different ways, you know, 2 different things. One allows you to split your move up between 2 different actions. One allows you to push your movement a little further. But it really is more of a road movement or strategic movement where you're not, the extended movement, where you're not actually allowed to engage. All right. I think that's all of the coalition forces. So, I mean, I could move my Brits around, I guess. It feels so weird. It feels like I shouldn't be allowed, to, because that'll allow me to reposition these things. So I've just been ignoring it because Ireland doesn't even fucking matter. All right. Druid Winter Quarters. Empire got their land 1 up there. I think I've got to move in both fronts. I think I got to move here and try to hit that. Hope for a win. That's the most important battle. Might let me play for a draw. But I think I'm also going to attack with the Poles. If I get incredibly lucky, something good might happen. Nothing bad happens to me if I lose with the Poles. Presumably something bad happens to the Poles, at least the ones involved in the battle. But, you know. Round of the battle, it actually went in favor of the Poles in terms of the numerical bonuses, but the actual die roll, Austrians rolled 1 higher. It was a 1-point spread. They got the same exact result. Neither side's leaving, because neither side wants to lose the battle, take a chance of being demoralized. I thought you could withdraw cleanly. You can't. You can do that in Empires in Arms and in War and Peace. There is an opportunity to get out of a battle without a demoralization, without a pursuit happening. Here, it's just, did you get lucky on the demoralization check? And I don't want to take the chance. The Poles want to fight because they wanted to win the battle. So another round of it. No leaders were lost in that first round. Second round resulted in a 0+ result that the Poles got. The Austrians did not get a result of that type, or an advantageous result. And the Austrians fall back here. They didn't get the interception bonus on the second round. The Austrians fall back because they were beaten even though they took no losses. Leader, French lost a leader, got a replacement. They got tons of 1-point leaders. So I moved 1, 2 for the battle, spending a third one to go in and follow them up. Do the Austrians want to fight a field battle? Yeah, this town doesn't matter. I moved to it with the thought of withdrawing into it, but I don't really think I want to. Might have been better off withdrawing into the woods. Get the strange defensive advantage for wooded terrain, which I just assume means that it's rough enough terrain that I can find defensive locations within it. Somebody made an argument, I mentioned this before, that wooded areas in Russia were kind of not fought over because there wasn't anywhere good to defend. Well, that wooded territory might be a lot of Russia in that case. And it might be the little bits of wood that you see in it are areas that are particularly rough terrain that would have some advantage to it. I don't know. We'll make up what we can about it. For whatever reason, this game has decided that forests are particularly good places to defend in. They don't, I don't know. They might in terms of being able to anchor forces, is what I've said. Yeah, let me withdraw back as far as this, because if he wants to besiege Leopoldstadt, he can. But then, you know, he's probably not going to be able to push me out anywhere else. Shit. I think I made the morale check. Honestly, the Polish force is too small at this point to take Vienna, is the problem. Yeah, it's only 1 point, but it's got a defensive force in it as well. Like, if I take Leopoldstadt, I'm too small to take Vienna as well as garrisoning it. So I think the Polish gamble is done. That's my fridge. It does that every now and then. And it's not like ice cubes falling down, it just clunks. It's done it since I bought the place, and yeah, I know it's a bad sign, but I don't want to replace a fridge that's working fine, but I hate the idea of like, plus I don't know how they would get the fridge out of here. Like, I don't know, I guess some boards over my stairs to create a ramp or something. Because the idea of them pulling it on a dolly, clunk, clunk, down those stairs, that would break them, you know. Successfully captured Leopoldstadt, but I'm just leaving it as a destroyed fortress. I didn't lose anything. I'm going to use my last 2 movement points to hit that Austrian army again. Hope for the best. They get a defensive bonus from the woods, but fuck it. Wait a minute, I was lying. There's no defensive bonus for it. It's just more movement points. Right? Reserve Cav SPs count for 1 to compute cavalry superiority, and artillery Cav superiority bonus is limited to +1. Okay, there are no reserve Cav SPs. At least that I'm aware of. The only reserve units I've seen in the game, it feels like something's fucking weird here. I don't know what the fuck they're talking about. And they count for 1. They always count, Cav SPs always count for 1. Right? Am I missing something? You just count the number of steps. That looks like some kind of artifact from something, as does the reserve Cav. The side with more Cav steps gets a +1. If they have twice as many, they get +2. There's nothing about... I don't know. I don't know what the fuck this first line is meant to mean. It doesn't make any sense. It's another piece of errata that, like... Right then. I thought I was going to get a -1 on here. Oh... Mountain Pass is -1. I don't know. Must have misread the chart before or something. Anyway, it's +3 to +2. The die roll went poorly for the French this time. They took a casualty that dropped them down 1 step. I decided to dissolve the unit into being a garrison. I think I can do that. And that allowed me to withdraw my leaders in case I want. It gives me another good leader for my army in case Napoleon and... Yeah, in case Napoleon dies, basically. No one died in the battle, none of the leaders or anything. And the question of Austria is definitively solved now. There are no Poles left. Austrians can recapture their fortresses if they want, but it doesn't make a difference. Now on to the main event. I want to be careful. If I cross the bridge and I'm intercepted into one of these hexes, I got me a problem. I end up being forced to take the intercepted penalty as well as the bridge penalty. Same would go with this bridge. But if I go here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, I can fight under more normal circumstances. We'll see if I get intercepted. I'll be getting supplies from Orleans. My supply situation is not good because of all those Austrian fortresses falling. No, I've got it from back here too. Okay, it's not as bad as I thought. And this is an interception with a major battle. The interception happening here. So we came from here. The French get their 4 cards. 2 of them don't count. Flooded River would help engineer crossing. If an opponent crosses a river using engineers, they don't get the advantage. Grand Charge, I don't have enough cav for that. So what I'm going to do is Fortified Farm as my primary. Defense and Depth, all this does is cancels Echelon. Your pursuit losses are lowered by 1. I guess those are separate. The force must contain at least 8 undemoralized steps. I think I have that. I think I have 10. Yeah. So that'll work, but I need a leader for that. I don't want to commit my good leader, Napoleon, for that. So I'll just put him forward for it. to give me a +1 on it. It's a good enough, like, I have enough 1-point leaders, I don't give a shit, right? France just has tons of leaders by this point. Let's look at the Austrians. The French, for the Austrians, lots of interesting stuff. First, the card I'm not going to take, Morning Fog. Neither side may use their artillery points. Artillery points are kind of weird. They don't, like, add to the strength or anything. They're just a modifier like Cavar, I think. Am I missing something? Now I want to check it out, because there are games where artillery count as strength points or something else. I don't feel like they do here. Like, I certainly haven't been playing as if they do. I've been playing them as if they're just this modifier on the combat table and a modifier on the siege table, and that's it. Clear. Calculating combat odds. Each side calculates its combat value by adding the combat points of all units. Artillery points do not apply. Pretty damn clear. I don't know what's up with this card, but anyway, I think I have the advantage. So I'm going to take the flank attack. Again, this requires me to make a roll to get. And unexpected ditch, which I'll put, it's probably worth putting a leader forward for. Oh, don't want to use a cav leader. I'll use this Clerlate, I can't read, forward to give me a chance at that. So let's check for the secondaries. We'll check the Austrian one first. He gets the unexpected ditch. It's not going to be an issue. The grand charge isn't happening. That got thrown away, actually. Let's check the flank attack. I need a 5 or a 6. Modified by the combat value of a subordinate leader. My best subordinate's a +1. I don't get the flank attack. And for the French, they automatically get the fortified farm. The defense in depth, they're at +1 on. Kind of, yeah, I do need to roll. It has its effect. Okay, we get that. That's going to improve our withdrawal if we have to make. If we end up demoralized, the pursuit will be a little weaker. That's all. Okay. Let's see what the odds end up. I'll swap battery. Great looking for the French. Even with the big Napoleon +3 bonus, it comes out 8-7. The Austrians indeed had more artillery. Got a point from that. Let's roll and see. +8, +7. 14, this is a major battle. All the way up. Well, French lose another battle. It's looking pretty unlikely for them to win, to prevent a loss. Fall back, they're not demoralized. Nobody died, nobody was wounded. But that brings something to mind that happened with one of the smaller battles. If you have a leader of a force, let me just make sure I'm stating this correctly. If you have a leader of a force, what I think happens is if you have a 3-star leader with an underling, you don't ever have to check for the 3-star leader to get wounded. I mean, I guess if the underling is committed and gets wounded in one of those ways. But let me just check the leader loss effects here. Okay, here we go. And I mean, the army leader never has to check anyway. If an L is resolved, the leader who will check for a wound is the lowest ranked leader if tied the owning player chooses. Yeah, it's not even your choice. So it's going to be very, very hard to have the commanding leader, 3-star leader with a subordinate, to get wounded. Now, the army leader never gets wounded, so I guess it all works out kind of fair. Yeah. What the hell was it? Frederick the Great like got hit in his snuff box or something. But anyway, and there were certainly I don't know if they count as armies, is kind of the question, you know. But there were leaders who died in command of relatively important forces during the Napoleonic Wars. But I don't know if they would count as an army. I'm thinking the Prussians lost one in 1807, or 1806, if I recall correctly. But either Brunswick or Hohenlohe. But anyway, the French are wearing down pretty low. They're down to 3 steps in their 2 armies. Now, the Austrians aren't that much better. There was no pursuit here. 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. But still, now we're starting to talk about getting odds bonuses. Yeah, they're not huge, but, you know, and we're kind of blocking their way. The French are going to have to work real hard to even get, if they want to just try to slip around and maybe try I don't know, an unsupplied attack. Yeah. I could probably call it here. In fact, I'm just considering it because I mean, yeah, sure. I'm really close to the end of the end of the year and whatnot, and I've seen things in this game where you can kind of pull something off, but I don't see it here. I just don't see it here. So yeah, I'm going to call this at this point so that I can stop playing. Because I think the French army took its final defeat there. I mean, even if they blow through this, they're not going to be able to face a British counterattack or anything like that. So I'm just too fucked. So yeah, we'll call it here. Not calling this a quit because it is absolutely apparent, and I just don't want to play out, you know, the rest of the chits that I'm just going to draw for no reason like I did last turn, and then, you know, I could just stop that. But then an attempt to, you know, try to invade Flanders and just get stomped by a huge British army. It just feels ridiculous at this point. I don't see anything of any interest. Now, had Austria fallen to the Poles, that would have been interesting. But that was a long shot. I actually probably should have focused on that instead of this on the first time the French launched an attack. Maybe last turn. I don't know. This turn, I did, so it wouldn't have made a difference there. But this time it was just such a long shot. But it was a long shot period at the end. What have I learned? Well, this campaign scenario is badly flawed. It really grinds poorly with the rolls. It feels like there's a lot of things that are left up in the air that I'm having to make up. On the other hand, we don't know if the other scenarios are just as troubled. You know? But this one really feels weird with things like countries leaving the game permanently who occupy territory like Neufchâtel here that is vital to French victory. Oops, Prussia just left. You know, and I made something up for it, but whatever. But more than that, the event deck. What did we miss? What didn't happen, right? I mean, look, more events didn't end up in anybody's hand than ended up in people's hands, right? You get 2 per turn. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 turns total. That's 12. French get maybe a couple extras. There's more than 12 cards here that are unused. So we missed things like King of France executed. This is required for one of the starting cards that Britain holds. Is it that big a deal? I don't know. The Cape, not that big a deal. Highlands, Scottish Revolt. The levy en masse, a whole bunch of extra French troops. Boy, that would make a big difference in the next turn, i.e., not in the normal cycle of things, so you can get a full production, boom, out there. Huge, huge effect that's not in present. And the Vendémiaire, that's going to be another, Bonaparte has appointed an army leader to an unmapped French army. Yeah, again, I wasn't able to use Bonaparte as an army leader. That sucked. That'd be useful. This is just in the revolutionary sense. Instead, I had to use him as some kind of weird 3-star, can't command an army and could preclude like a 2-star leader from taking over an army. I might end up in a position where I don't know what happens. I think the army dissolves or something because of his presence. I don't know. We'd have to make it up if we got to it. But yeah, significant events not coming into play. There were others that came up that might not have, that might not have, that were important as well. There's no guarantee that some of these come up. Which ones? The Bridge of Arcola doesn't matter. The Vendée probably doesn't matter. Valmy you start with. Carnot, there was no guarantee of this, but I was able to draw it. Dutch Indies, who cares? I was able to draw it because of the Committee of Public Safety, but it's possible that the Committee of Public Safety could be destroyed by the Directory right away. This started the game there. Yeah. Yeah, it's quite possible that like major events that focus the campaign, and the levy en masse not coming up, that's huge, right? Like that could have turned around one of these years where where the French didn't manage to turn things around and just ended up stalemated or beaten. I could have just turned that year around and made it a victory. And I feel like I needed just one more year of victory and things would have gone very, very well. The problem I had was I got unlucky in a couple of battles and I didn't get something huge that I wanted. Now that levy en masse wasn't out while I had the Committee of Public Safety in play. Terror, not that big a deal. But the Directory, horrible because it cancels out this special ability to draw another card. Oh well. I'm not a huge fan of scripted games, but I don't like these big events just being kind of luck-drawn things, right? I don't feel like there's anything quite that big likely to come up in the 1805 campaigns. Well, in the campaigns after 1805. I do think that this one, like what I want from this one is something that handles the revolutionary aspects much, much more and isn't just the military game. I wanted something that, isn't just a few cards that really determine the fate of the game to this degree. I'm hoping that the big campaign doesn't do that. It feels like this one was even less well developed than the rest of the game. Even the core of the game has problems, right? And then there's this scenario which feels particularly off the rails. And then it's just this fucking bummer. If you're going to do it with cards like this, man, put something in to cover the 1798 year or whatever, right? Let me have the Egyptian campaign. Make it a card. Make it a foreign war. I don't know. Make it something where I'm allowed to slip troops or must slip troops away to Egypt, and maybe I get a chance at something interesting that, causes the Brits to throw more resources into India or something. I don't know. But it feels like a couple of cards could handle that really well in a way that wouldn't be too foreign to the game, and you could basically glue this together for a 1792 to 1815 campaign instead of a 1792 to 97, and then I don't remember if there's a 98 in there or just a 99. It's kind of hard to find because they're kind of glued in weird places. This one's Bonaparte in Italy. We're not doing that. Marengo we may do, but that's just like a tiny scenario. I think I'll probably pass on it. It's 1800, which isn't otherwise covered in the game. Here's the short scenario. 1799, Second Coalition. Nothing in 98. Yeah, nothing in 98. So 98 is the Egyptian campaign, and there's other stuff going on. And that's what I kind of want. I also had a feeling, and maybe this is the Empires in Arms one, that the rise of Napoleon was covered in the game. But I don't know where I got that feeling from. Again, it might be from Empires in Arms. It might be from reading something like Empires in Harm, like notes about it or something. I don't know. But what I do know is that this is not at all satisfying, and the whole revolutionary thing, which was one of the biggest things that drew me to this game, seems so minor, like it doesn't glue together into a single unified campaign, and it just, and I'd want stuff like the partition of Poland. Hey, make that a fucking card too. If you're going to make major events in the world a card, make that a card, and make there be rules about it, special rules, whatever. I don't know, but it feels so bland, like I'm just playing this little land campaign thing at the most exciting point, which is this revolutionary period. To me, the 1805, Third Coalition or whatever, is like, I don't know, that's such well-trod ground for me that I feel like every game that I pick up starts there, and they all, tell the same story. This is the story that's filled with all kind of interesting stuff that that doesn't fit the same sort of mold. Now, Empires in Arms, with all the diplomacy in a full 7-player game of it, and maybe this too, in the same circumstances, but I doubt it, is able to generate some really weird shit going on. And I kind of complain because that's weird shit that didn't happen, right? The coalitions were almost continuously against France. The only weird thing about that happened across this whole spectrum in terms of major power alliance is Spain switching from being part of the coalition to being pro-French, making their decision that their best interests were with France, and then, Napoleon decided to install his brother, but, because Spain wasn't doing everything he wanted. But yeah, I mean, it was, that was the only weirdness, and then maybe some stuff around Ottoman wars and whatnot. But anything else felt almost like cheating, like, hey, Russia and France come to an agreement to split Europe. That can happen in Empires in Arms. That might be advantageous to both countries. I don't play it that way. I play it as Russia can win the game. Russia is in one of the best positions to win the game if nothing happens. But yeah. And which is kind of weird. You'd expect Britain to be the status quo player. Britain cannot win the game, by my interpretation, in Empires in Arms, by trying to maintain the status quo, which is their goal. Unless multiple people can win the game, which is also possible. It's hard to tell with the rules. But if there's like somebody who has a singular point advantage, it's going to be Russia. Now, if there's wars and whatnot, that's how France fuels the points that they need to win the game. The higher point value that they need compared to Russia. Russia has a lot of land, which gives them a victory. But Britain can grab lots of land in weird places. And dude, completely, like, that's the problem with Empires in Arms, is that the players are encouraged to do really ahistorical things. Well, Britain is encouraged to do really ahistorical things. Other countries, maybe not so much, but I've seen some really weird shit happen every time I've played it multiplayer, so I don't know. All right, let's send this one up, and I don't know. I mean, yes, I'm gonna give other scenarios a shot, but part of me is just so discouraged.